Their whirlwind romance was simply meant to be. But before their fateful encounter, she was already promised to another man. Her shoes were studded with pearls. A long veil complemented her beautiful hair, and a set of emerald jewelry sparkled around the girl's slender neck. The glittering ornaments looked stunning on the young, blue-eyed bride, who savored watching herself get all dressed up. This was Lily, the youngest daughter of Count Roland, and she was about to become a member of the New Moon Kingdom's royal family. The girl couldn't wait to show her wedding dress to her fiancé, and the maids told her he had gone to the conservatory. Traditionally, a bride shouldn't see the groom the day before the wedding, but Lily didn't care at all. She and Prince Richard Stewart had known each other since childhood and had a rock-solid relationship. He was the object of many of her firsts, and she was deeply in love with him, her heart filled with sweet hopes and dreams for their future together. She wanted to find him, but she stopped dead in her tracks when she heard a familiar voice. She hid behind some leaves and saw him getting cozy with some chick named Bella. He was passionately kissing his red-haired lover, whom he had been hiding all along. What was worse, Bella was Lily's sister. Richard said she was a child, that she was boring, and that he didn't want that kind of love. He called the other girl his greatest pleasure, and she, was very into it. Their private world was interrupted when they heard the strange sound of a flower pot breaking. They snapped their heads up and saw the uninvited guest in the greenhouse. Caught red-handed by the bride herself, the adulterous pair was extremely nervous. Lily froze, barely managing to ask Richard to explain this mess. She exploded, questioning how he could do this with her own sister. Bella just sneered, asking why she was interfering in the prince's affairs. She confidently walked toward her sister, saying Richard knew what he was doing. Lily recoiled at her sister's nonchalant attitude and demanded she stay away from her. She shook Bella hard, accidentally flinging her away. The girl feigned a look of fear and turned to his royal highness. Richard roughly grabbed Lily's arm, telling her not to speak to Bella like that. He said their marriage was a sham, and she had to accept it. Then he whispered sweet nothings to the other girl, asking her to stay. The prince tried to kiss his bride, but she was utterly disgusted. She bit his thumb with all her might, her nails digging deep into his hand. Richard felt a sharp pain and jumped back, calling her a lunatic. He moved so fast that he accidentally hit his bride, the one he hated. His fist landed squarely on her face, leaving an ugly bruise. The girl, tears streaming down, threatened to tell his father about him getting involved with that witch's child. Richard froze, knowing he was in big trouble now. Lily gathered her thoughts and slowly stood up from the cold. Floor tiles. She calmly announced that the marriage contract between the Stewart royal family and the Roland family was canceled. The girl thought she had settled the matter, but then a woman's hand reached for her. In an instant, Bella trapped her in a bone-crushing hug. In a threatening tone, she said she was going to shut her up for good. Before Lily could react, a bottle of magic potion was forced down her throat. The girl's eyes widened as she realized it was one of Bella's concoctions. She suddenly remembered bumping into that girl in the woods that day. She never thought she would end up like that rabbit. One day she tried to fight back, but Bella held her down until she swallowed the poison. The poison burned her fragile throat, and Lily choked and coughed, trying to clear her throat. Bella just sneered, knowing her sister was coughing up blood. She announced very dramatically that the prince's bride had died on the eve of her wedding. Richard played along, suggesting they tie her to a horse and send her out into the fields. They were sure that because of the red moon, monsters would devour her. Lily's weak body endured their twisted plan until nightfall. Then, with a thud, she fell to the ground, all alone. When she saw a paw in front of her, she thought she was done for. The monster gently shoveled away the snow. The snow-white girl was taken into its arms. Its eyes glowed red, and no one knew what it was plotting. The giant wolf gazed at the girl under the red moonlight. He hastily brought her back to his hidden castle. Opening her eyes, Lily thought she was seeing a real angel. She thought God had sent her to heaven, so she squeezed her eyes shut. The next moment, she suddenly realized she was still alive. She didn't recognize the girl by her bed. The maid bowed her head and announced that Lily was awake. Lily immediately leaped out of bed, demanding to know where she was. The maid smiled, introduced herself as Catherine, and said she was safe now. She explained that they were at Shadow's Inn Manor. she mentioned that all the lands of the Yarrow wasteland belonged to the Duke. The man gave her a thoughtful look, then casually snapped his fingers. In that instant, all the candles in the castle blazed to life. He looked down at the girl from his great height and announced that he was His Highness Isaac Stewart. Lily was surprised, as he was the current king's younger brother. This made him an extremely important figure in the New Moon Kingdom. Isaac was considered the crown prince and the legal heir. He had achieved great military honors and was both rich and handsome, but his dabbling in dark magic led him astray, and he had lived in seclusion ever since. After that, he disappeared, leaving the entire kingdom in the dark. Lily got out of bed and bowed to thank him for saving her life. She tried to complete her curtsy, but her head started spinning wildly. The next second, she accidentally fell headfirst into Isaac's arms. She didn't even need to introduce herself. He already knew her name. Lily came to her senses and realized he was holding her tightly in his arms. In one fluid motion, he set her back on her feet, saying he knew who she was. Isaac called her the poor girl who almost became the prince's consort. He added that the dark magic and poison had done a number on her, which was why she was unconscious. The man looked at her sternly, telling her to save the pleasantries and get some rest. Lily froze, realizing she had been unconscious for 2 days and had missed her wedding to Richard. The weight of her responsibilities hit her like a freight train. Her hands trembled uncontrollably at the thought of what might have happened to her parents. She also remembered Bella, who was desperate to take her place as the bride. All these thoughts made her body tremble even more. Isaac's gaze scrutinized her as he asked if she was plotting revenge. She froze when he revealed that her fiancé, her childhood sweetheart, and her sister, well, let's just say they were not good people. They had betrayed her and poisoned her with a poison that could corrupt the heart. Isaac coldly asked if she hated them. Lily hated them to her core, but she was powerless. She knew she was no match for the two of them. The girl felt increasingly desperate, but Isaac told her to calm down. He saw her tears and told her to stop looking down. Isaac caressed her tear-stained face and made her look at him. He looked directly into her eyes and said he could teach her everything. He added that all these skills could help her get her revenge. Isaac said that if she agreed, she would have to stay at Twilight Manor. Lily was still crying, but his words gave her hope. Isaac grabbed the back of her head, telling her to stay with him. The girl looked completely stunned and overwhelmed. She seemed to know she had nowhere else to go, which made her start considering his offer. She had always heard he was an arrogant and condescending guy. Even though he had saved her, he was still a steward at heart. She bowed respectfully, still unsure if she could trust him. Lily mentioned that she was already engaged, so the whole thing could cause a huge scandal. She added that she needed to talk to her father before making a decision. The girl thought her mother must be frantic with worry over her disappearance. She looked him straight in the eye and asked him to send her home. The proud man was stunned, completely baffled by her refusal. Although annoyed, he nodded and agreed to her request. Lily breathed a sigh of relief and hurried past Isaac Stewart. She had only taken 2 steps when he grabbed her wrist. The girl looked at him in surprise, at the man who had just agreed to her request. He asked if she really planned to wander the wastelands in her nightgown. It seemed she only then realized she was wearing a night robe. Lily immediately turned away from Isaac and hastily covered her chest. The master of the manor sighed wearily and spoke to the maid. He ordered a riding habit and a horse to be prepared. Lily was still embarrassed about her appearance, but eventually she was ready to be sent home. Lily happily petted the animal, silently hoping to return to the Roland mansion. She managed to bond with the beast, and then they set off. Isaac Stewart watched the girl's figure disappear, lost in thought. The maid asked if he was really just going to let her go like that. Just like that. She was the only daughter of Saint Andrew, born under a lucky star. She had the right to inherit her family's magic potion recipes. Isaac had felt the pull of her blood on him before. She had the ability to restore his normal appearance and his sanity. The maid said this was the best way to break the curse and return to the royal palace. The master of the manor began to think about how to use her. He decided to send a few crows to spy on the girl. The man held out his arm, and a bird landed right on it. She said, "We had to help Lily when she was in real trouble." Meanwhile, the girl practically burst into the Roland mansion. She shouted that she was back, and then received the shock of her life. Right in front of her was a coffin covered in white flowers. The girl staggered toward the coffin and saw her mother inside. She was so shocked she almost collapsed. There, staring up at her, was the woman who was supposed to be at her wedding just yesterday. Lily collapsed onto the floor in front of the body, refusing to believe it was her mom. Her body trembled with sobs while her mind kept saying this had to be some kind of cruel joke. She leaned over her mother's cold body, heartbroken. When Lily saw the stunned maid, she turned around. She immediately demanded to know what on earth had happened. The head maid just shrieked, saying the murderer had returned. She stared at the tearful girl, who was being publicly accused of murder. This was too much for Lily to take. She couldn't even speak. Soon, she was locked in the tower dungeon of the Duke of Roland's mansion. Lily pounded frantically on the door, and when she heard footsteps, she immediately shouted that she wanted to see her father, that she had been framed. She sank to her knees, still beating the door with her hands. The girl lowered her head, saying she wanted to find her mother's killer. When she saw the door being pushed open, she squinted against the blinding light. Lily expected to see anyone, but definitely not her enemy. Standing before her was Bella, the backstabber, smugly sipping tea. She dramatically poured out the tea, saying she had heard her screams. Bella guessed her throat was hoarse and offered her a cup of tea. As she finished the cup, she gave the girl a mocking smile. Lily immediately accused her sister of everything she had done. In response, she just smiled, guessing she wasn't welcome here. She traced a finger across her face, asking who she was waiting for. The girl said that after Lily ran off, he had a heart attack. The news hit Lily like a ton of bricks, crushing her hopes. Bella sneered, saying she had to go make medicine for him. Lily clenched her hands, her heart breaking as she looked into her eyes. She told Bella straight out that she would pay for destroying her parents. Before she could finish, Bella slapped her across the face. Bella became very serious, saying Lily's face was already plastered on wanted posters. She added that tomorrow, Lily would pay for all the crimes she was accused of. Bella laid out her entire plan and how perfectly it had all gone. It seemed everything had been planned down to the last detail, and Lily's hope was fading fast. She finally realized Bella and Richard were trying to get rid of her. Bella relayed the prince's words, saying he was tired of playing with Lily. She leaned in toward the girl, saying what he loved most was fame and the throne. Lily stood up, concluding that she was the one who always messed up their plans. She looked at the witch and asked what their father and mother had ever done to her. The girl grabbed Bella's throat, screaming for an answer. She reminded her that it was her father who took her in after she and her witch mother were wandering around. Lily had always treated her like a sister, no matter where she came from. Even her mother treated Bella like her own child, teaching her everything she knew about medicine. Lily screamed with renewed strength, asking why she had done such a terrible thing to them. Bella was taken aback, saying she had given Lily a chance to end things herself. She was shocked that Lily had traded him away just to preach some moral lesson. The next moment, Bella chanted a spell, and the room erupted in light. Green flames ignited in her eyes, ready to destroy everything. The force instantly slammed the girl to the floor and pinned her arms. Bella loomed over Lily Roland, saying she had always hated her to the bone. She was jealous that her mom had given birth to her out of love, while her own mother was just a homeless witch. They had both fallen for Richard, but their father had arranged everything only for Lily. Bella could only stand by quietly, burning with jealousy. Lily immediately asked why she was blaming them for what they hadn't given her. Bella turned away, saying that after she was gone, she would take everything for herself. She disappeared behind the door, adding that she would even take her body. She said goodbye to the girl who was bound by thorny vines. Exhausted, Lily lowered her head and turned to the crown prince. She began to tremble, confessing that she regretted leaving a short while ago. The girl's tears fell again as she said she wanted revenge. A crow appeared beside her, announcing that it had heard her wish. It watched her from behind, making sure she couldn't see it. After it spoke, the ivy behind the girl glowed brightly. The crow released another wave of magic at it, aiming to destroy it completely. His strike was so powerful that it shattered the window of the dungeon tower. The next second, Lily found her hands were suddenly free. She realized in shock that she was no longer tied up. The girl stared intently at the crow. It flew toward her. It swooped right in front of her, showing off a large ring on its leg. Lily began to inspect the strange little bird. The crow immediately protested, demanding she call him Karen and not treat him like some bird. Karen Farrell proudly declared himself to be the crown prince's most trusted spy. He said he was here on his master's orders to pick her up and take her back to the manor. It took Lily a second to process everything he was saying. She asked about his escape plan, since Bella had already sent guards after him. The crow called her a fool and asked what wings were for on a bird. He flapped his wings toward the sky, saying they were for flying. He landed on the windowsill, saying no one could catch them. The bird told her to hurry up and jump on his back immediately. The little bird's words sounded so absurd to her that she froze. She clumsily climbed onto the windowsill and steadied herself. The moment she saw the height, her confidence evaporated. She asked what to do next, because she was afraid of heights. The bird told her to just trust him and take the leap. Lily couldn't fully trust the bird's words and started trembling even more. Her fear was amplified by the knights who noticed the dungeon shutters were gone. They spotted Lily and immediately ordered her capture. This made her realize that death was waiting for her, one way or another. She jumped, thinking it was better to die this way than by public execution. The girl squeezed her eyes shut, feeling death approach. She was amazed when she found herself on the back of a giant bird. She was shocked by Karen Farrell's enormous size. He told her to hold on tight to his feathers and brace for impact. Just then, the guards noticed the giant crow. They immediately detected dark magic and started screaming their heads off. This just confirmed their suspicions, like, yes, she was definitely an evil witch. Lily realized her old life was over and could only accept what was coming. She held on tight as the bird navigated the forest like an expert. After a while, they finally reached the Crown Prince's castle. He had thoughtfully prepared new clothes for her, ensuring she was comfortable. Lily still couldn't wrap her head around being so far from home. She walked up the stairs and saw the necklace, the one from her wedding. Before that, the necklace had belonged to her beloved mother. This emerald necklace was passed down through the women of her family. This was supposed to be a happy marriage for Lily, too. The girl painfully recalled all those ruined moments. Her tears fell again, fueled by the rage of her mother's death. Lily felt a wave of determination wash over her, and she swore she would avenge her. She would make them pay in blood for everything they had done. She shook off her thoughts and tears when the door to her room opened. Isaac stood before her, asking if she had made her decision. The girl gazed thoughtfully at her new benefactor. He unexpectedly announced that from this day on, she was the mistress of Twilight Manor. Lily was surprised, thinking there must be some misunderstanding. She immediately bowed, thanking him for his help and shelter. She was worried it might be dangerous for him, as she was now a wanted criminal. The girl decided to ask him directly what he wanted in return. Isaac said she was sharp to see things from his perspective. He approached her and told her bluntly that he needed her blood. The man slowly took the necklace from her hand and helped her put it on. He explained that he had been cursed years ago, and she might be the key to breaking it. Isaac asked her on every full moon night to give him her blood for a potion. He thought she would be terrified, but she just turned straight around. The girl confidently pried open his eyelids to check the color of his eyes. She started unbuttoning his shirt, saying she was deeply offended. I think he was the most surprised by what was happening. The next moment, she exposed his chest and saw a black mark. She immediately recognized it as the bond of the lunar crown. She instantly understood why he wanted to leave the royal family. She knew he turned into a beast every full moon. On top of that, he suffered excruciating pain every moonless night. He was destined to slowly lose his sanity until he killed everyone he loved. Lily immediately guessed that Mr. Crow was also cursed. Isaac explained that the crow had been with him ever since he bought it at the market. Everything changed the night that witch broke in. She attacked them by surprise, hitting them where it hurt most. Karen shared the curse with him, preventing it from reaching its full power. If he hadn't done that, Isaac would have already become a monster. Since then, they had been living in seclusion, cut off from the world. He remembered the powerful witch's face as if it were yesterday. He swore to make her pay 1,000 times over for everything he had endured. He caressed Lily, saying their stories were somewhat similar. To his surprise, the girl accepted his offer and strode away. She smiled and said that in return for his help, it was a pretty good deal. Lily smiled and offered to brew some herbs for him to ease the pain and calm him down. They were interrupted by a servant delivering a letter from His Majesty. She suddenly imagined her master drinking blood. The girl immediately blushed, feeling like an intruder. She smiled and promised she wouldn't breathe a word of their little secret. Lily began to explain that she just wanted to see what his symptoms were like. The maid reassured her, saying the bond of the lunar crown was a rare curse. She was surprised that Lily had a way to break the curse. Lily explained that she didn't have much experience, but she was good at making potions. She thought she might be able to make an antidote with her blood. Lily smiled slyly and asked if she could repay him for saving her life. That same day, Isaac prepared a guest room for her. Lily was ecstatic and thrilled. Isaac was an attentive host, giving her a tour of the whole place. She was even given permission to grow her herbs there. Isaac took her to a separate room, perfect for a laboratory. Lily was stunned by the huge space. She thanked him, beaming, and promised to make medicine for him. Isaac enjoyed seeing her so happy. He told her the tour was over and to call a servant if she needed anything. Lily watched him walk away, really wanting to say something. In the end, she decided to talk to Crown Prince Isaac after all. She hurried up to him and asked what he was planning to do. Lily admitted she saw his mood change after he read the letter. She hoped to help him as his ally. The man gazed thoughtfully at the eager girl. He turned away, telling her she shouldn't get involved in his affairs. His words stung her, as she was only trying to help. She started mixing potions, realizing he probably didn't want to be friends with her. The girl looked at her reflection, reminding herself she was no longer a princess. She picked up a knife, repeating that they only took her in for her blood. Lily thought she would just go along with it and give him what he wanted. After that, she planned to use him to get what she wanted. Karen interrupted her thoughts, asking what smelled so good. When he started gulping down the potion, Lily immediately snapped at him. She told him it was a test sample, but the room instantly lit up like a Christmas tree. The next second, a tan-skinned, bare-chested man was standing in front of her. Even though it proved the potion worked, she was still incredibly embarrassed. Her scream immediately summoned Catherine, who brought some clothes. Karen felt guilty for scaring Miss Lily. It had been a long time since he had been in his human form. Lily thought her blood in the potion might have something to do with it. She warned him that he only had half a day before he would turn back into a crow. Karen asked if he could use different materials to extend his time in human form. Lily agreed it was possible, but they would have to experiment. She knew those rare items would be hard to get. Karen took her hand and suggested they go to the market together. He was practically pleading with his eyes, forcing her to agree. Before she could react, he grabbed her hand and started pulling her along. She tried to remind him that she was wanted and could be arrested. He just smiled and told her to trust him. He gave her a playful wink, promising she would be fine. In the end, he had her put on an outfit from his tribe, the Fala. He laughed, saying she was now wearing his clothes. She couldn't help but imagine what the spy would look like in women's clothing. Afterwards, they hurried to a shop that sold magical supplies. A girl greeted them at the door, and she seemed to know Karen. He immediately told her to keep her voice down, adding that the rules were the same as before. The girl looked thoughtfully at his companion and drew her own conclusions. She waved her hand, indicating she would keep everything a secret. Karen explained that they knew each other because Isaac was a regular here. The owner of this shop really had a knack for finding rare treasures, and she was about to get powerful proof of it when they brought the box in. Inside were real mermaid scales, a potent ingredient for making potions. Karen reached into his pocket, saying he was going to get it. He pulled out a whole bag of gold, showing they had more than enough cash. Just then, Bella also walked into the shop, needing the same scales. Seeing her older sister, Lily felt a sudden wave of fear. She froze, trying to keep the girl from seeing her face. The girl wrapped her shawl tighter, as if wanting to disappear. Bella stared at her, like a predator sizing up its prey. She wondered how a common, made from fail, could afford something like this. Bella snatched the vial of scales from her hand with a triumphant smile, and guessed she was brewing some kind of love potion. The girl boldly took out the small bottle and said she was going to buy it. The shopkeeper explained that someone had already bought the scales. Bella scoffed, saying the failed tribe was just a bunch of poor people without even a country. She took out a coin, saying she would pay double. Karen muttered to Lily that he really wanted to punch her in the face. Lily began to tremble, whispering that she was making a special elixir. It seemed Karen had no idea what this elixir was or why she was so afraid. The girl repeated that the ingredients were for making it. It would force the victim to lose their mind and become a puppet who follows others' commands. Lily guessed she was brewing the potion for her own father. She decided to fight back against her sister and snatch the vial. The girl secretly sprinkled its contents out, right on her back. Bella immediately turned around in anger, demanding to know what she was doing. The girl smiled triumphantly, saying she was giving her some rain moth powder as a gift for her thievery. She added that it causes a severe rash if it touches the skin. Bella felt an intense itch and immediately started cursing the girl. Before she could react, Karen had a knife to her throat, telling her he didn't care who she was. He explained that according to the rules of his failed tribe, she had disrespected him. The girl felt a wave of fear when he said he could end her on the spot. The shopkeeper interjected that she had better apologize to their esteemed guest quickly. Karen smiled triumphantly, saying he had no intention of causing trouble. He ordered her to kneel and apologize to his sister. Bella seethed with rage that he would dare pull such a stunt. She knew she could unleash some dark magic and level the place. She remembered that the shopkeeper, Isis, knew which family she came from. The respect Isis showed for the members of that tribe annoyed her. She knew she shouldn't cause trouble for her family. Swallowing her pride, Bella knelt before the girl. Every word was a struggle, but she managed to apologize. Karen repeated all her insults, which she accepted completely. Lily calmly replied that she wouldn't take her words to heart. She held out her hand to the humiliated witch. The girl demanded she return the mermaid scales. Bella reluctantly handed her the vial without a word. She also demanded that all the ingredients Bella mentioned be sent to her castle. She ordered Isis that from now on, the shop was not to sell her so much as a single leaf. Isis immediately agreed politely and decided to go to the warehouse. Lily gave her sister a victorious look, promising herself this was just the beginning. She announced their business was done, after which Karen drove Bella away. After being pushed by him, the witch fell to the ground in disgrace. She told herself to endure it, vowing to make them pay for this humiliation. Bella watched her tormentors leave, wishing she could tear them to pieces. She observed the girl's mannerisms, which felt strangely familiar. She recognized the Lily who was always praised for her elegance. Meanwhile, Richard was having fun with other ladies. His fun didn't end until Bella showed up. She ripped off his bandages in a fury. He immediately snapped that he had told her not to see him without permission. Bella burst into tears and apologized, but he just kept scolding her. She explained that her ruined face was her sister's doing. Richard was taken aback, remembering she had said Lily escaped using dark magic. She told him she had met a girl at the market who felt strangely familiar. Bella added that she had hooked up with some barbarian from the tribe. Richard immediately remembered how she had played hard to get, not even letting him kiss her. Bella kept crying about how wrong she was. She decided to drag Richard into it, saying they didn't even spare him. Bella lied outright, saying people thought he was an unreliable guy, an idiot, and a complete megalomaniac. She added fuel to the fire by saying he couldn't hold a candle to Isaac. Meanwhile, Karen was roaring with laughter at Bella's swollen face. The bad boy was enjoying this immensely, saying nothing was sweeter than revenge. Lily was very happy that the shopkeeper had helped them so much. Karen replied that Isis was the most capable woman in his tribe and wouldn't let her own people be humiliated. He also added that she wanted to repay their kindness. Lily was listening to him until she saw Isaac himself. He was standing alone in the middle of the hall. He checked the time and asked if they had enjoyed their trip to the old street. It seemed he wasn't too happy about them returning so late. After a brief chat, Lily returned to her bedroom. She sighed, feeling the comb glide through her hair. She sadly confessed to her maid that she had upset Isaac. Lily explained why they went to town, but he just gave her a cold look. She even begged for forgiveness, but it was no use. He only said that from now on, she was not to leave the castle without his permission. It angered her that he was trying to bind her in any way he could. Catherine smiled and said he was just worried about her. Lily didn't seem used to hearing such things. The maid said he had returned to the palace with a bouquet of flowers. He had searched the whole damn castle before finally asking Catherine. He seemed relieved when he found out Karen had gone with her. Then he just stood in the castle hall, waiting for them to return. He kept looking at his pocket watch. Almost every 5 seconds, Isaac was worried she hadn't recovered from her mother's death. Catherine showed her the bouquet, saying he was just bad at expressing his feelings. With words, I guess her explanation turned the whole situation around. Lily gazed thoughtfully at the lilies he had picked for her. After a moment, she decided to go thank him. All he was doing was taking out his anger in training. She pointed out how late he was training. She quietly came up behind him and asked what was bothering him. He just coldly reminded her that he had told her not to meddle in his affairs. He glanced at her and said he would walk her back to her room. she decided to ask him directly if he was afraid of losing everything he had. He froze, not understanding why she would come to that conclusion. Lily just said confidently that his reaction proved it. She approached him, saying she knew about the rumors concerning the Stewart family. It was obvious his nephew Richard coveted the throne. He wanted to use the Rowland family to consolidate his power. Lily was sure that whoever cast the curse wanted to ruin his reputation and strip him of his power. She suggested he consider who in his inner circle would benefit the most. Before she could finish, he was in front of her. Lily panicked, saying she shouldn't have meddled in his family affairs. Isaac replied that despite her intelligence, he needed to think everything through carefully. As they walked, they discussed that his brother would soon hold a family banquet at the palace. He knew his absence would make him look uninterested in politics. Isaac was sure that then he would be deposed as crown prince. When he said it would happen on the night of the blood moon, Lily was surprised. She mentioned that because he lived in complete seclusion, rumors about him were rampant. The guy just smiled smugly and said the gala was being held for him. Lily knew the blood moon would trigger his monster transformation. Isaac said he had to be there and asked her to brew him a potion. Lily smiled and assured him everything would be fine. He returned the smile, saying he was really counting on her help. Isaac suddenly realized he needed a partner for the ball and invited her to go with him. The girl was flustered by the invitation, but she couldn't refuse. Her bright smile vanished when she remembered Richard would also be there. He suddenly said they would give her a new name and a whole new identity. He called her Princess Lilith of ancient Leonia and asked her to play the role of his bride. Lily immediately blushed at the guy's flirtatious move. 3 days later, Isis was leisurely strolling through the market. She remained calm until she heard screams about a fire. The girl discovered her entire village, including the shop, was engulfed in flames. Meanwhile, Richard was wearily waiting for news from his servant. The mercenary bowed and said he had done as ordered. Richard asked where the person they were looking for was. He handed over a box, saying she was hiding in the shop run by that failed tribe member. Richard thoughtfully opened the box, waiting for confirmation of her death. Inside was a lock of burnt hair and an emerald necklace. Meanwhile, Isis was talking with Lily. The girl had foreseen the arson and managed to prepare a fake body. Isis thanked her for managing to take the valuables so they wouldn't look for her again. Lily smiled and thanked her for her cooperation. In return, Isis decided to discuss the fact that Prince Richard had started the fire. She couldn't believe he would stoop to such a thing. Lily immediately explained that the red-haired girl was his special friend. She apologized for the chaos, knowing many people were hurt because of it. Isis told her not to apologize, adding that she didn't regret helping. She looked the girl over and said that one shouldn't play dead when seeing a beast. Isis said excitedly that you either run or you fight. Lily took a good look at the shopkeeper and promised she would remember her advice. She stood up and asked her to stop calling her Miss Rowland. The girl ordered her to consider the daughter of Duke Rowland dead, lost in the fire at the old market. After that conversation, the girl decided to take a walk. It seemed everything that had happened recently was really weighing on her mind. She came to her senses when she heard a familiar voice beside her. Isaac walked right up and asked what was upsetting her. Even though their operation had gone off without a hitch, she was still a mess inside. The guy looked her straight in the eye and asked if she was really blaming herself for the deaths of those people. Lily said nothing, but the look on her face said it all. He told her the shop was burned down because their loved ones were just plain bad people. The girl paused, then declared she no longer blamed herself for it. She bluntly said she regretted not finishing Bella off that day. Isaac smiled smugly, saying he could see the growing desire for revenge in her eyes. He said Karen couldn't have done anything to Bella back then. Under the circumstances, he handed her a knife, telling her to settle it herself. The girl decisively drew the sharp blade and stared down at it. She immediately saw the reflection of her bright blue eyes. Lily was preparing for the banquet and asked what she needed to learn. Isaac told her that in ancient Leonia, she was highly respected. He said that all the generals and officials of that country were women. The guy quickly snatched her knife and pinned her, saying he had one again. The girl looked awkwardly at the joking Isaac. He added that besides fencing, she should also learn to ride a horse. She had to master etiquette and the fine arts. The nobles of Leonia, who revered their queen, valued all these skills highly. Isaac also made sure his tailor was making a dress for her. The old woman carefully took Lily's measurements. The guy was really throwing himself into teaching the young woman. She had 1 month to master their language and history. In Leonia, there was a tribe blessed by the gods. The royal women were born with powerful white magic in their blood. They could control the elements and purify corruption. They lived in peace for a long time, but change crept in unnoticed. Soon, those who wanted to overthrow the queen decided to summon a demon. The heretics who gained power by worshiping the devil called themselves witches. They traded good deeds for the power of curses. Eventually, they angered the gods and brought divine punishment upon themselves. Soon, the earth began to crack, and a rain of fire dragged the kingdom into chaos. From then on, witches were seen as treacherous creatures, and they were exiled and burned. Lily remembered this volcanic eruption happened in the year she was born. She asked what happened to the Leonia royal family. Isaac replied that they loved their land and people more than anything. They considered a martyr's death an honor. They fought the disaster until the very end and were then buried under the sea. Rumor has it that a descendant of Leonia escaped to the Crescent Kingdom. For a time, Isaac had searched for her. He was interested in her power. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any trace of her. Lily said she understood their power and would try to break his moon crown curse. The proof would be that he wouldn't turn into a monster under the blood moon. Her idea was that whoever cursed him would think she had actually broken the curse. Lily was sure the culprit would definitely make a second move. Isaac saw the worry in her eyes and told her it wasn't too late to back out. Despite this, Lily was ready to see it through with him. She smiled and said he needed her. She also added that he couldn't handle this alone. Lily told him not to worry and said all she had left to do was learn the language. From that moment on, the girl diligently studied the language of ancient Leonia. She would spend hours locked in the study, buried in books. Sometimes she would even study so late that she'd fall asleep right on her books. Isaac would sometimes see her like this and gently cover her with a blanket. Even in her sleep, she would murmur about working hard and not letting her family down. Isaac admired her drive, but her hidden sadness worried him a little. All he could do was carefully carry her back to her room without a word. I think he even enjoyed carrying her down that long hallway. You know, he would place her on the bed so gently, as if she were made of glass. He tried to leave the room, but something froze him in place. Isaac suddenly felt a wave of dizziness, and his heart began to pound wildly. His breathing was so loud and heavy that it even woke Lily up. She was surprised to see him drenched in sweat. Isaac struggled to remain calm and apologized. The girl realized what was happening and worriedly clasped his hand. She asked directly if the curse was tormenting him. He pulled her close again when she said to use her blood. Isaac froze above her, feeling the urge taking over. He slowly and deliberately inhaled over her soft hand, as if savoring the moment. The instant he imagined the taste, his fangs grew long. The next second, she was pinned to the bed, but she didn't resist. His cold gaze was enough to scare anyone, but she remained silent. Lily trembled as his clawed hand reached for her delicate neck. She had never seen anything like it, never seen him like this. The moment she felt his breath, she pleaded with him not to do it. Isaac had no intention of stopping. He leaned in, baring his fangs at her neck. He wanted to sink his teeth into her, but at the last second, he realized what he was doing. He couldn't bring himself to hurt Lily and immediately recoiled. Isaac clutched his head, repeating that this was wrong. Lily watched anxiously as he fought with something inside him. The guy gritted his teeth and snapped at her not to look at him like that. He forced himself to calm down and then bolted out of her room. Like an arrow from a bow, Catherine watched her restless master with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Every one of his episodes tore her heart out. Meanwhile, Lily finished brewing the potion and left her room. She went to the balcony and saw the ominous glow of the red moon. The girl knew what this meant and decided to hurry. The next thing she saw, Isaac was using all his strength to resist the transformation and was barely holding on. Lily had only read about this in books, but now she was seeing it with her own eyes. Isaac's entire body was racked with unbearable pain. From the curse, Catherine pleaded with her to help, saying he had never been in so much pain before. Isaac didn't see it that way. He told Lily to get lost if she valued her life. Lily knew he didn't mean it, but it still upset her. She took a step closer and said that if he didn't want to see her, he could just drink the potion. But all he did was throw the bottle away and tell her to get lost. The girl scolded him, comparing him to a spoiled brat. She decided to change tactics and poured the potion directly into her own mouth. The next moment, she kissed him giving him no time to think. She held him tightly until she was sure he had swallowed everything. The moment he swallowed the potion, his ears immediately disappeared. The man collapsed in exhaustion, right onto his beautiful savior. Lily needed to remember that he passed out after drinking the potion. Catherine looked thoughtfully at her sleeping master. 3 days later, Lily was back to brewing potions. Catherine happily announced that her dress for the banquet was ready. Lily was surprised, replying that her potion wasn't finished yet. The maid took her hand and told her to finish it later. She smiled and said Isaac had a surprise for her. Lily blushed at the thought that he had arranged something. She hadn't seen him in 3 days, not since their kiss. The girl hurried to the crown prince's room. He casually mentioned her dress was ready and suggested she go try it on. She thanked him, a little flustered, and rushed to see it. She gazed thoughtfully at the small golden box. The moment she opened it, she saw a gorgeous necklace. She was about to say something in surprise, but he was already gone. He already knew what she was thinking about those emeralds. The truth was, it was her mother's necklace. It was just updated before the fake body was planted in the fire. He had swapped it with a fake one. Lily had said to use the real one, but he wasn't going to do that. He always felt the heirloom was too important to just throw away. He finished by saying he would understand if she was angry with him. He definitely didn't expect her to jump up and hug him gratefully. She started thanking him, as she thought she would never see it again. She gave a bright smile and said she was going to try on the dress. Lily wiped away a tear, saying he had given her the best gift in the world. Isaac began to seriously wonder if he could ever truly repay her. She helped him no matter what, accepting him for who he was. The guy couldn't help but bring his fingers to his nose and found they smelled of lilies. The big day for them to go to the banquet arrived. The arrogant Marchioness Celine Gestia was also present. Everyone was stunned that she had actually shown up. After all this time, they guessed she only came because Crown Prince Isaac would be here. Richard was the first to approach her, asking if she was looking for his chicken-hearted uncle. He grinned, guessing he was probably running around the woods naked right now. Richard kissed her hand and invited her for the opening dance. He had hoped to win the favor of the strange lady, but she rejected him without mercy. The Marchioness said she doesn't dance with arsonists. Immediately, everyone started whispering about the fire in the old market. After embarrassing the prince, the Marchioness just stood there bored. She looked ahead thoughtfully and asked, "Who is that tacky social climber?" The Marchioness pointed to Bella, who was dressed in a gaudy outfit with ridiculous jewelry. The prince said awkwardly that he had never seen her before and didn't know who she was. Bella walked up to the Marchioness and introduced herself as the eldest daughter of Duke Roland. She mentioned that after Lily's death, her father had fallen ill and entrusted her with managing everything. She approached the prince, saying she would replace her sister and become a bride worthy of him. Everyone froze when the master of ceremonies announced the arrival of Isaac Stewart. They had expected to see some kind of beast, but instead, they saw an elegant gentleman. Marchioness Celine Gestia beamed, ready to greet Prince Isaac. He surprised everyone by appearing with a noble lady by his side. The nobles had thought he had gone mad, but what they saw was not that. The guests at the banquet immediately began to gossip about how beautiful his companion was. Isaac introduced her as the princess of the ancient kingdom of Leonia. He called her his precious fiancé, and she curtsied politely. What impressed everyone about the guy wasn't so much his wealth, but the fact that he actually had a fiancé. The prince immediately commented on the princess's elegant demeanor. Bella just scoffed at her performance, saying she had plenty of people like that back home. Richard sized her up and asked why she would say that. The witch leaned in and whispered something with a triumphant smile. Richard grinned, saying he was looking forward to the show. Meanwhile, Celine Gestia still couldn't take her eyes off Lilith. She approached the princess thoughtfully, as if scanning her to see if she was the real deal. To break the ice, the girl mentioned that the crown prince often spoke of her. The Marchioness looked her up and down with a very critical eye and asked if Isaac had mentioned her. The princess smiled and said she had heard they grew up together. Celine lifted the princess's chin with her fan and gave her a very unkind look. She called her a princess who came out of nowhere, someone Isaac had never mentioned. The crown prince quickly intervened, ordering her not to be rude to his fiancée. Celine scoffed, shocked that she was his fiancée. Richard decided to ask Isaac how he had managed to wander into the palace. He touched the lady's chin, guessing that a bad influence named Lily had brought him here. The girl immediately slapped his hand away and told him to get lost. She said that as the princess of the ancient kingdom of Leonia, she would not tolerate such disrespect. Bella brought up the history of the goddess's family and questioned how she could be the wife of a cursed prince. Lilith was about to answer, but Isaac gently touched her hand. He said he brought her here to quell all these rumors. As he finished speaking, Lilith grabbed Bella's face in a flash. She pressed her hands to her temples as if to disrupt her mind. The girl began to chant a spell in an ancient language. The Marchioness recognized it as a prayer to the goddess. As soon as she finished, Bella's tiara transformed into a wreath of flowers. Lilith said Bella was dressed like a Christmas tree and needed to tone down the accessories. The nobles all laughed, thinking Bella looked like a complete joke. Isaac calmly drew everyone's attention, saying that was the power of the goddess Leonia. He added that she could heal any wound and purify any corruption. He gazed lovingly at his bride, saying she possessed the power to save everyone. Bella kept doubting herself, saying it was impossible, which drew scornful side glances from the others. It turned out they were using Catherine's potion to create an illusion that would last for 3 hours. He asked if she was worried about being discovered by Bella. The girl smiled smugly, saying she would soon lose her crown. Meanwhile, Prince Richard said she had shamed him and told her to stay away. Burning with rage, Bella snatched the crown from her head. Just as Lilith had expected, she threw the thing with all her might. Afterward, feeling utterly defeated, she turned and ran away. Lilith said she would go talk to Bella while she was alone. Isaac agreed and urged her to be careful. The princess's sudden departure piqued Richard's interest. He smiled gently, feeling drawn to his new bride, Lilith. Meanwhile, Bella was consumed by anger and the feeling of public humiliation. In her heart, she cursed Richard for being a good-for-nothing idiot. Bella dug her nails in until they bled, thinking that if she had been born into a different class, no one would dare treat her this way. She gritted her teeth, vowing to show them all one day. When she heard a familiar voice from behind, the girl turned around. Standing there and looking right at her was Princess Lion herself, Lilith. The girl tried to hide her surprise at seeing Bella, while the witch simply sized her up condescendingly in response. As Lilith approached, she recoiled and demanded to know what she wanted. The princess gently took her hand and looked at her bloody fingers. She immediately took out a bandage to give Bella first aid. Bella was stunned by her flawless, precise movements. Lilith smiled and promised that everything would be all right. The witch was astonished. This lofty goddess had first humiliated her and then showed her mercy. Lilith said that the feud between their ancestors was a thing of the long-forgotten past. Bella was taken aback when Lilith said they had a lot in common. Lilith mentioned that in the past, witches were a joke and nobles treated goddesses as nothing more than flashy ornaments. This was their similarity. They had both been hurt. Lilith saw through her, saying they were both treated as if they were worthless. Bella was surprised when she asked if she wanted to make Prince Richard pay. Lilith decided to use the witch's anger and revealed a small pouch. She pulled it out of Bella's sleeve and recognized it as the puppet potion. The witch felt a surge of anger and snapped her fingers. She didn't want to be caught red-handed, so she decided to destroy all the evidence. The girl smirked and said she had no idea what that witch was babbling about. Lilith gave the girl a displeased look without a word. She told her not to get so worked up, saying she had no proof. Bella once again sized up her opponent warily. Lilith gloated inwardly, remembering that she had bandaged her finger, and detected the potion. She said she had come here with the crown prince's permission. The princess let Bella know that the prince was still waiting for her. Then she left. She immediately headed for the hall, realizing she had just set the bait. Just then, she could feel the killing intent emanating from Bella. She clutched her dress, knowing she had to rescue her father at once. Before she could take a step, she was grabbed. With lightning speed, the man wrapped his arm around the princess's waist and pulled her close. Lilith looked back and saw Prince Richard's greasy smile. She immediately shot him a harsh glare, telling him to be respectful. But her words only seemed to amuse him, and he became even more aggressive. He grabbed her shoulders, saying he couldn't control himself in front of such a beauty. Lilith wasted no time. She elbowed him in the ribs, trying to break free. Prince Richard rubbed his ribs, grimacing in pain, while she took the opportunity to escape. Her swift escape only made him laugh. He watched her retreating back, saying things wouldn't be that simple. Lilith stopped abruptly and looked around. It looked like a dead end. She realized she was completely lost in the palace. just her luck. The prince strolled forward, saying he would have her no matter what. He tightened his gloves, declaring that he would not be denied. There were rumors in the palace about a certain potion, one that could truly bind a person. Just a few drops on the skin, and the power of Florandi would take effect. The prince smirked, admitting he had already used it when he grabbed her. He suddenly sprinkled a few drops of orange liquid on her neck. Prince Richard strode triumphantly to a huge door and threw it open. He paid no mind to whether she resisted, walked straight in, and asked in a drawn-out voice, "Where is my little kitten?" Richard was convinced he had succeeded, and the smile never left his face. Finally, he looked ahead and noticed the curtains swaying. He felt like a predator when he saw the shoes peeking out from behind the curtain. Richard slowly approached the curtain and reached out to touch it. He was about to pounce on Lilith, but a woman suddenly stopped him. Richard glared at Lady Shay for getting in his way again. The girl said this was the drawing room, not his private playground. Richard cursed her for being just a meddling lady-in-waiting. Lady Shay explained that she needed to prepare the room for the queen's arrival. Richard didn't argue, just glanced back once, ready to leave. He yanked the curtain open, ordering them not to let any suspicious individuals into the queen's reception room. The man had expected to find Lilith, but only saw her shoes. He immediately asked in frustration where on earth she had gone. Shay asked if they were putting on some kind of play. She added that they should leave, but he snapped at her to shut up. Afterward, he slowly left the room, saying he had made a mistake. Lady Shay stood frozen, waiting for him to be far away. She looked around, saying it was a good thing he hadn't found her. She was staring at Lilith, who was hiding on the other side, fully armed. Shay asked her who had taught her to neutralize the Florandi poison. Lilith answered curtly that her mother had taught her this knowledge. Shay said it was clever of her to use her shoes as a decoy. She thought that if she hadn't shown up in time, Richard might have already harmed her. Lilith glanced at the lady and asked why she was helping her. Shay just took a step back, saying this wasn't the first time Richard had done something like this. The girl was surprised to hear he had already done this to 5 other people. The Florandi poison was forbidden, which made her think the prince had some unsavory connections. Lady Shay said that someone like him was a disgrace to the royal family. Lilith asked why she didn't punish him for these despicable acts. The woman simply replied that she was just a lady-in-waiting, and he was protected. Lilith frowned upon hearing that the prince was coddled by the king. Lady Shay told her not to worry, and to just leave. She handed her a cloak and promised no one would know this had happened. Lilith put on the cloak, saying she would not forget her help. She was about to leave the room, but Shay hurriedly stopped her. Shay remembered that the drawn blood still contained some of the Florandi poison. She wondered what Lilith would do with the vial, but Lilith remained silent. The girl knew that Richard would not rest until he got what he wanted. She was sure he would take his anger out on the witch Bella. He grabbed her tightly and used magic to command her to bring Lilith to his bedroom. The prince threatened her, saying he would take the vial to the queen. He threatened to tell everyone that his crazy actions were all the witch's idea. Bella tried to calm him down, forcing a sweet smile. She asked if her precious prince was really threatening her. Richard sneered that he couldn't have gotten the potion without her. He gripped her chin, threatening to expose her as the mastermind behind his actions. The girl grabbed his hand, asking how he could do this to her. She looked at him with innocent, puppy dog eyes, saying everything she did was for him. Before she could finish, he slapped her hard across the face. He ordered her to continue pleasing him and bring Lilith here. He hit her so hard that Bella collapsed like a sack of potatoes. Annoyed by the witch's silence, he kept yelling at her. It seemed Richard had finally crossed the line this time and pushed her too far. After all this time, the prince suddenly realized he was completely unable to move. Bella got back on her feet, a twisted smile on her face, and threw his own words back at him. When she asked if she was just his plaything, Richard felt a sharp pain shoot through his body. She smirked, telling him there was no need to remind her of something she already understood. The girl released a beam of light, saying things were about to change. She touched Richard's forehead, telling him that now he was her plaything. The moment she touched him, his consciousness was severed. Bella decided to test the potion's effectiveness and ordered him to hand over the vial. She lifted the vial with magic and aimed a beam of light at it. In the blink of an eye, the vial shattered and all the evidence was destroyed. She laughed scornfully, asking why he looked down on her while also trying to use her. Bella said she would fix him then took off her shoe and extended her foot toward him. She smirked, expecting the prince to serve her blindly. The girl froze when she glimpsed the corner of a garment flash by the doorway. She immediately rushed forward to check the hallway. Although no one was around, she still felt like she was being watched. She was furious at the darkness because she couldn't see anything. However, she felt better at the thought that the evidence was gone. She remembered Richard, who was completely under her control. The girl was stunned to see him holding a candlestick. He was crawling on the ground non-stop, enjoying the sweet scent of the potion. Bella couldn't figure out who had left a candle with Florandi essential oil here. She realized it had been burning for a while, and she hadn't seen anyone's hand. In an instant, she felt Richard grab her, locking her in his arms as if hypnotized. He kept inhaling the scent from the witch's body. She wanted him to stop, but he wouldn't. The prince said he was drawn to her hair and her burning skin. Bella knew it was a trap, but her thoughts began to grow hazy. She felt her body melting in Richard's feverish kisses. The girl laughed with pleasure, wanting to return his affection. Driven by the magic, they continued to express their passionate feelings for each other. They kissed for so long that they forgot everyone around them. Meanwhile, Lilith returned to the main banquet hall. A lady asked her where she had been for so long. The princess smiled and said she had been on the balcony admiring the moon. She added that there was supposed to be a meteor shower tonight. The people around her immediately responded, all eager to see the natural phenomenon. The nobles unanimously decided to head to the balcony. Only Isaac could guess that this was all part of Lilith's plan. The girl smirked and gave her fiancé a meaningful look. Meanwhile, the nobles stumbled upon Bella and Richard in an intimate moment. A lady immediately accused them, asking how they could be so shameless. The couple looked up and found they had an audience. Bella's dress was hiked up and disheveled, and her hair was a mess. It seemed a sudden shock was the only thing that could sober them up. They started making excuses just before Lilith appeared. She gave a knowing look. Bella kept straightening her dress, saying they had all misunderstood. Richard pushed Bella away, saying she had used some kind of love potion. The witch asked in dismay why he would say that. Everyone immediately started gossiping about the prince's already terrible reputation. People believed he was the one who had caused all this chaos. He yelled at them, threatening to have the palace guards arrest them all. Lilith sneered, telling him to control his temper. The prince grew even angrier, demanding how she dared to order him around. He was about to lash out at her again when he heard a familiar voice. As everyone expected, the queen stood before him in all her splendor. Elena Carter sized him up with a cold, unforgiving gaze. Richard was terrified, realizing his situation was precarious. The queen reprimanded him, saying he was increasingly bringing shame to his father's name. The prince fell to his knees at her feet, begging for her forgiveness. He once again tried to accuse Bella of using witchcraft. Bella refuted him, saying she never meant to harm her fiancé. Shay said they should both be sent to stand trial before the Holy See. The queen agreed and decided not to embarrass the guests any further. Lilith suddenly announced that Bella had indeed used a forbidden potion. She produced a vial as evidence. Bella protested that she was talking nonsense. The witch knew Lilith had framed her, but she was certain that vial had been destroyed. Lady Shay examined the vial and confirmed it was a forbidden potion. Lilith added that she had checked the vial's number and found it had gone missing from the storage room after Bella's visit. She stated that this had nothing to do with the prince, as Bella had the access pass. The princess concluded that it didn't matter who was the main culprit and who was the accomplice. Their crimes were equally grave because they had toyed with those girls. Lilith bowed deeply, pleading with the queen to uphold justice. She asked to eradicate the root of this depravity. Shay backed her up, saying the queen had already given him too many chances. The queen said nothing, merely gesturing to the guards. They rushed forward to restrain Prince Richard, grabbing his arms. He struggled, looking straight into Lilith's face. Richard declared that he was a prince and had the right to enjoy everything the palace had to offer. The princess retorted that a noble's duty is to set an example, not to abuse their power. Bella was observing the girl closely and noticed something. She remembered hearing those exact same words from her sister. As a child, Lily had gotten into trouble for saying that phrase too many times. Bella kept staring at her face as if searching for an answer. She sneered inwardly, thinking it was a pity Lily was still alive. She accepted her defeat, feeling she had messed up by choosing the idiot Richard over Isaac. Enraged, Bella was certain Lily wouldn't be this lucky forever. It seemed her power was beginning to spiral out of control, wanting to tear the place to pieces. She glared at Richard, forcing him to obey her will. Yielding to a mad impulse, the prince broke free from guards. He rushed back toward Princess Lilith. Bella grinned, knowing he had managed to snatch a knife from one of the guards. Lilith didn't even have time to react before the blade swung down. She froze, unable to believe she would be finished so quickly. The girl squeezed her eyes shut. Then, Richard's sword was blocked by another. It seemed the prince couldn't handle the power, as his sword shattered on impact. Isaac rushed in to protect his endangered princess. He ordered him to get away from her and punched him in the stomach. Still under control, Richard struggled to get back on his feet. It was obvious from his dull, dazed eyes. Lilith came to her senses when she heard her sister chanting a spell. She turned to Isaac, telling him not to let her finish the incantation. Lilith explained that Bella wanted to silence everyone. Isaac charged directly at his nephew and knocked him unconscious. He glared at the witch with a murderous look, as if he knew exactly what she was up to. The next second, his blade was pointed right at her. The man asked her directly how she dared to lay a hand on the prince. He glared at her with hatred, saying he could finish her right then and there. Bella smirked and asked what he intended to do. Lilith said that Richard's strange behavior looked like he was under the influence of some kind of mind control potion. She suggested they visit the shop where Bella bought her herbs and check her inventory. Lilith smiled, saying it would be a simple way to prove her point. Bella sized her up with a sneer, asking if she was her dear sister. The princess played dumb, saying they had only just met today. Bella lowered her head, saying it no longer mattered. Everyone was stunned when the witch vanished into thin air. Lilith looked around and saw her standing on a high railing. Isaac quickly pulled her back, telling her to be careful. They watched as Bella's entire body began to glow with an ominous light. She glared at them, announcing that she was done hiding. Lady Shay rushed to warn the queen and find cover. Bella said it was too late, that magic and spells were just the beginning. She looked at her sister, calling her the mysterious Lady Lilith. The girl raised her hand, declaring that this palace would become the eye of the storm. Lilith tried to stop her, saying the church might turn a blind eye to spells, but even so, her use of such powerful elemental magic would not be forgiven. Despite all she said, Bella was unstoppable. She wasn't afraid of the death penalty or any punishment, because she wanted to destroy everything here. She smirked, saying she was tired of seeing the arrogant faces of the nobles. The girl added that if everyone here died, no one would know what happened. Lilith remembered that the ban on elemental magic existed because mortals lacked the power of a goddess. She realized Bella was gradually draining everyone's life force. This was necessary to cast that elemental miracle. It seemed Isaac had noticed this too and rushed to protect her. The violent wind left a cut on his face that he didn't even notice. Bella snatched his sword, saying he deserved a special reward. She danced with the sword in the wind, saying her sister's neck was next. Lilith froze, watching the raging elements. It seemed Isaac was the only one who could remain calm. He leaped up, extended his hands, and made a strange gesture. The man bit his finger, saying he would have to use his sword after all. Lilith was surprised when he began to chant the paladin's blessing. It seemed even Bella, the most powerful witch, was shocked by his skill. Isaac just gave a sly smile, saying they were right. The next moment, his whole body was engulfed in bright flames, and a sword appeared in his hand. It turned out he was the heir to the holy sword, a knight of flame. Bella remembered that knights were considered the goddess's faithful allies and strongest warriors. Isaac asked her icily if she was scared. Bella raised her hands, saying she hadn't heard of them since the fall of Leonia. She hit him with a blast of wind, saying he was probably just bluffing. Isaac simply raised his sword, ready to block the attack. A bright, fiery energy began to gather on his sword. This power surged from the sword he prepared to use to defeat Bella. He guided the wind currents to deliver his energy blast. The next moment, the entire area exploded in a blinding light. The energy he emitted was so intense that Lilith was almost blown away. Isaac reacted instantly, pulling her into his arms to protect her. The girl felt a wave of embarrassment, mixed with a strange sense of trust. Isaac stroked her hair, telling her not to worry, that everything would be all right. All she could do was trust him and gaze into his crimson eyes. Meanwhile, the defeated Bella was falling toward the ground. She kept muttering about the return of the paladins, as if under a spell. Isaac walked to the railing, wanting to get a clear look at his opponent. He shot her a look that could kill and declared that it was all over. He ordered them to put the witch in shackles and drag her to the church's dungeons. The queen agreed with his decision, then turned her attention to Lilith. Isaac immediately grabbed her hand and shielded her with his body. She was a little flustered, but undoubtedly grateful for his protection. The queen wanted to know why the heiress of Leonia had done nothing when the witch attacked. The girl lowered her head, saying it was the paladin's moment to shine. She glanced up at him, saying she trusted her fiancé. Lilith looked at the nobles and brought up some strange rumors she had heard. They had accused Isaac of dabbling in black magic, saying he had turned into some kind of monster. She gave a playful wink, saying those accusations had been officially debunked. Seeing that everyone supported the princess, the queen remained silent. Lady Shay said that thanks to them, Bella's little scandal had been exposed. The queen realized too many people had witnessed everything and had to concede. A moment later, the woman took her leave, ordering Isaac to take care of his bride. Lilith bowed in response and thanked Shay for her help. The girl said it was nothing and urged them to leave there as soon as possible. She added that Isaac had caused the Stewart family a lot of anxiety. Shay concluded that he was under even more suspicion than the little weakling hiding behind the Leonia name. Isaac frowned, realizing their deception was obvious. Lilith saw his confusion and looked at the man. She mustered the courage to ask if she had done something wrong. She felt like an idiot, completely clueless about politics. Isaac told her not to worry, saying she was just under a lot of stress. Lilith blushed, saying she wasn't nervous at all. The man just smiled and replied that she was indeed worked up. He pointed out that she had even called him by his name for the first time. It seemed she hadn't realized until now how close she had become to him. After that conversation, they hurried home. The time had finally come for Lily to change back to her true self. For some reason, a tense silence hung between them. She saw Isaac's expression darken and asked if he was all right. The man immediately replied that he was just tired from the day's events. Lily mentioned that she had prepared many potions for him. The moment she showed concern, he told her to take care of herself. He leaned in close, saying Bella might still have loyal followers out there. Lily simply hugged him back, gazing into his eyes. He asked softly if she really wanted to see her father. Flustered by their closeness, she awkwardly looked away. She said her father was imprisoned by some kind of puppet potion curse. She suddenly grew somber, saying she couldn't wait any longer. Isaac just watched her mood swings as if it were no big deal. He suggested they proceed as planned, and then they arrived at the estate. The girl decided to take back everything that was once hers. She threw a cloak over her shoulders and walked straight in. Isaac stepped out of the carriage, gazing thoughtfully at her retreating back. He knew this whole operation could be very dangerous for Lily. He snapped his fingers, and the crow, Karen, appeared before him. Isaac ordered it to follow her and protect her no matter what. The crow wondered if he would be all right after using the power of the holy sword. Karen asked if the man needed any protection. Isaac didn't even acknowledge it, simply rolling down his sleeve calmly. His expression darkened when he saw the curse marks spreading further on his body. Meanwhile, Lily had already scared the guards and servants in the palace out of their wits. A maid fell to the ground in terror, thinking she had seen a real ghost. Everyone was certain that Lily was dead. They never thought they would see her standing there. The girl ordered them to kneel before the dead who had returned from hell. The maid collapsed to the floor, saying Lady Bella had already left. Lily looked around thoughtfully, as if searching for proof of her words. The place was empty, and all the Duke's guards had disappeared, which set off alarm bells for her. Just after she asked the question, the maid suddenly collapsed, unconscious. Her strange behavior made Lily even more suspicious. She snapped her fingers, not expecting that a simple illusion would make the maid so gravely ill. She decided to take the opportunity and head to the basement. For her, the journey down those stairs would be a long one. She couldn't help but recall that the maid was still young the last time they met. Now she looked at least 20 years older. Lily didn't expect to get in so easily. Now she had to find her sister Bella's underground laboratory. She had intended to look for the formula for the potion's antidote, but only found a stranger in a robe. Thinking he was one of Bella's lackeys, she hid. Lily wasn't entirely sure who this guy was, but she wasn't going to take any chances. She worried she couldn't handle him alone. She meant to wait for the right moment, but accidentally knocked over a glass flask. The man, who was mixing a potion, immediately turned to check the source of the sound. Lily wanted to run, but her body was frozen in place. When she saw that the man was none other than her own father, she couldn't believe her eyes. Meanwhile, The maid was crying non-stop, muttering about another victim. The man, however, put on a happy facade and asked if she was truly his daughter. He tried to pull her into his arms, but she slashed open his chest. As the fabric tore, she saw a black mark underneath. It was the blood curse that only black magicians possessed. Devastated, she confronted him, demanding to know how her mother had really died. The man grinned like a madman and asked what she was talking about. He began to tremble, saying it was all because of that witch, Bella. Lily immediately connected the smell of the potion with the aged maid. She also noticed the strangely wrapped flask. The girl realized in horror that it was a real cursed cinerary urn. When she saw a strand of blonde hair inside, she couldn't believe her eyes. When the girl realized it was her mother's ashes, her heart shattered. She realized all the evidence pointed to the fact that he wasn't being controlled by a puppet potion. Her own father had performed a sacrifice for eternal life. Before she could finish her sentence, an invisible force yanked her backward. Black bars wrapped around the girl, choking the air out of her. Her father controlled them, complaining that his body was slowly rotting away. He held a bright crystal in his hand, saying he was forced to do all this. He smirked, saying that only a demon could grant him a new body. As soon as he finished speaking, the black bars wrapped around the girl's throat tightened again. Lily tried to break free, but every second was an immense struggle. The guy said her mom was the first victim of this curse. He pinned his daughter to the ground, saying it was now her turn. Her father held the crystal in his hand, then caressed her chin. The man felt the wrinkles on his face smoothing out bit by bit. He said the more she struggled, the more power he would gain. Before he could complete the ritual, Karen knocked the crystal out of his hand. The purple magic crystal shattered on the floor with a crash. Before the bird could fly away, its entire body was locked in place. The man said smugly that the curse would affect everyone in the dungeon. He tightened his grip on his victims, draining their life force. Lily felt her body growing weaker by the second. The guy was completely stunned when Isaac appeared behind him. It seemed he had finally unleashed his monstrous side. Roland initially thought he was a monster until he recognized it was the prince. He didn't know then that his time had come. Isaac said that in the name of the Stewart family, he was sentencing him to death. Lily opened her eyes, and a surge of hope filled her when she saw the man. The moment he attacked her father, the black bars vanished. Lily knew her father was finished, but they had no other choice. She jumped up and saw a bloody corpse lying nearby. It seemed she couldn't accept that she was now an orphan. She saw the blood-soaked guy and asked him what he was doing here. He was no longer the Isaac she once knew. The moment he picked up Karen, it was as if he was consumed by the curse. He squeezed the bird tightly, remembering he had ordered it to protect Lily at all costs. Lily saw his intention and grabbed his hand tightly, as if begging him to stop. Isaac was about to lose control, but her touch calmed him for a moment. She started crying again, practically pleading with him not to hurt the poor creature. The girl held his hand, telling him that wasn't the real him. When she asked him not to do something he would regret, he had a moment of clarity. Their memories flashed through his chaotic, curse-ridden thoughts. He remembered how he had wanted to see her sweet smile and had strived for it. Now he noticed her beautiful face was contorted with grief. This seemed to sober him up, and he managed to apologize. His anger subsided, and he let go of Karen. He looked calmly at his chosen one and told her not to cry. He gently stroked her blonde hair and held her tightly. Isaac inhaled the floral scent on her and said he didn't want to see her sad. After all this, he dreamed of a forgotten childhood memory. It was the day he was first asked if he was ready to accept this heavy burden. The child told his father that if it meant bringing peace, he was ready. Then he dreamed again of holding the soft hand of his beloved girl. She looked at him so gently, you could almost read her feelings. The next second, he snapped his eyes open as if waking from a nightmare. He immediately saw the girl, crying with joy. He looked around in confusion, not even knowing how long he had been unconscious. When Lily saw the way he moved his hand, she blushed and felt a bit strange. After everything that had happened, she still didn't know how she felt about him. She struggled between the hurt she had suffered and the love she still had for him. It seemed Isaac didn't even understand why she was acting so strangely. Suddenly, he rubbed his forehead, lost in thought, trying to piece together everything that happened yesterday. He realized he had been too casual in front of this girl. He had, after all, killed her father. Isaac gripped the bedsheets, thinking he must be insane. He held his head wearily, telling himself that was no excuse. For the first time, the man wondered if his desire to avenge her and be close to her was the real reason behind it all. But he felt it was impossible for her to ever open up to him again. He came back to his senses when he heard Catherine's cheerful voice. The maid smiled and told him he'd been unconscious for a whole week. She explained that his curse had acted up, draining a great deal of his stamina. She remembered how he was covered in blood when Karen and Lily brought him in. The guy immediately wanted to know if Karen was all right. Catherine seemed surprised by his concern, but she said it was safe and sound. Isaac didn't show it, but he was ashamed of his actions from yesterday. He smiled, not even realizing it himself, and thanked Lily. Catherine was surprised, then mentioned that Lily was arranging her father's funeral. It seemed the maid's words brought him back to reality. The entire palace had learned that Duke Roland had performed some kind of dark ritual, so all charges against Lily were dropped. They also promised to restore her noble title soon. Hearing this news, Isaac ordered his formal attire and scepter to be prepared. Meanwhile, Lily gazed thoughtfully at her parents' coffins. She felt an emptiness in her heart, but couldn't squeeze out a single tear. The vultures were already circling, ready to tear the poor woman to shreds. Lily ignored them and decided to bid her parents a final farewell. She hoped her father's soul could be saved and her mother could rest in peace. Shay announced that her father could not be buried in the noble cemetery. Lily knew this, but she came to say goodbye anyway. In addition, the queen ordered the Roland family's assets to be frozen until Lily accepted her title. Shay added that the church would take the duke's body. Lily broke down, saying she wanted to forget this chaotic past. She bit her lip in disgust, saying she would sever ties with her family. The girl knew what she wanted, but a familiar voice told her, "Not while I'm here." Lily turned around and saw Isaac standing there. He was dressed in his formal attire. She wiped her tears and rushed up to ask him how he could be here. She couldn't believe he would decide to come to this place. His touch also unsettled her, as the events of yesterday were still replaying in her mind. When he touched her with his scepter, she looked at him in shock. He suddenly promised to give her a third of the land across the river. He decided to do this as compensation for the death of her father, which he had caused. Shay immediately questioned him, asking if he knew what he was saying. Lily understood the situation and protested that everyone was aware of the circumstances. She wrapped her coat tighter and told him it wasn't his fault. She had to fall silent when he placed a finger on her lips. He smiled gently, looked into her eyes, and told her not to refuse. He didn't have much time to protect her and help her take back everything. After that small ceremony, they hurried back. Lily tried to catch up with him, wanted to talk about what had happened. She frankly admitted that she was very embarrassed by what he had said. She looked at Isaac thoughtfully and asked if something was on his mind. It seemed she had struck a chord deep inside him. He suddenly turned to face her and said, "You're very perceptive." Isaac pulled the girl closer, thanking her for not rejecting his gift in public. Lily said she couldn't accept something so valuable. She was about to add that she was just a heretic, but he demanded she be quiet. Isaac caressed her face, saying this wasn't over because she still belonged to him. He was about to finish when a sharp pain suddenly shot through his entire body. The pain was so intense he even gritted his teeth. Lily immediately screamed for someone to help. She felt his body go limp as a mark spread across his skin. She told Catherine that they needed to take him to the hottest room. When Catherine heard he also needed to be washed, she was surprised. So the girl stripped Isaac and carried him to the bathroom. This was the first time Lily had seen the curse progress so quickly. She had a bad feeling about this and decided to prepare all the medicines. The maid said she was asking for too much and they couldn't gather everything at once. Lily froze, then told her to hurry the servants along as fast as possible. In the end, only she and Isaac were left. Because of the steam, she could feel the heat seeping into her body. Feeling like she was about to suffocate, she decided to take off her outer clothes. She caressed Isaac, telling him he had to hold on. Lily never expected him to wake up at her words. Her face instantly flushed under his intense gaze. Before she could react, he grabbed her hand and pulled her down. Lily found herself submerged in the water, and then she felt a fiery kiss. She tried to struggle free, but he pulled her even closer. The man held the drenched girl tightly, as if afraid to let her go. Her soft skin stirred a powerful impulse, a primal desire, one might say. She seemed to sense his intense emotions and asked about it. Isaac hesitated like a wild predator, then quietly confirmed her suspicions. The next moment, he leaned in, ready to express his feelings. Lily prepared to accept, but he himself pulled back. He said a monster like him shouldn't ask for anything more from her. Lily saw his struggle and decided to support him. She explained that she had completely lost her father ever since he made a deal with the devil. Lily added sadly that he was the only person she was afraid of losing. Isaac couldn't answer and decided to kiss her again. Lily was surprised, realizing it was a real kiss and not just one born of a craving for blood. She felt both tenderness and sadness, but her heart was steadily melting. They were lost in the moment until they heard the clatter of beakers. The girl was startled and immediately pushed away her passionate admirer. They froze like children caught doing something wrong and saw Catherine standing before them. The maid immediately apologized for walking in on them. When she said they could, continue, Lily blushed. She scrambled out of the pool, saying she would get the medicine herself. Lily rushed out of the bathroom as fast as she could. Catherine froze, realizing she hadn't even asked what medicine it was. Meanwhile, Lily stood frozen outside the locked door, trying to catch her breath. She felt her mind go blank. The girl slumped to the floor, trying to figure out why he had kissed her. She shyly pinched her burning cheeks, wondering if he really liked her. She quickly dismissed these thoughts, looking for the catch behind it all. She instantly saw through his volatile emotions and sudden impulses. She also couldn't forget what happened in the basement, when he had completely lost control. All signs pointed to something serious happening to him. Meanwhile, Catherine thoughtfully picked up a match. She carefully lit a candle and placed it on the tiled floor. The girl wrapped Isaac in a towel and asked him how he was feeling. He remembered the priest's words, that the curse was spreading like a countdown. He knew the final stage of the curse meant it was all over for him. Afterward, they both just stared at the floor, lost in thought. Catherine knew it was true, but she still wanted to give him some hope. She glanced at the silent Isaac and asked if Lily knew about this. He just answered curtly that she shouldn't know. Isaac believed she was only staying out of obligation and for the benefits she could gain. That's why he didn't want her to bear that kind of burden. Catherine explained that if he were just an ordinary person, Lily wouldn't be so worried about him. She leaned into his ear and whispered that it wasn't a burden, but love. The girl smiled slyly, saying those were a woman's most dangerous emotions. Isaac was taken aback. You could even see the fear in his eyes. He froze when Catherine asked if he had feelings for her. She reminded him that he had been willing to sacrifice everything for her, giving up the chance to break the curse. With those words, Isaac fell into a deep sleep under the candle's effect. The maid gently laid him on her lap, as if guarding his dreams. She smiled with satisfaction, looking down at the man who was now in her grasp. Then she raised the candle and blew it out in one breath. She said he had fallen deeply in love with Lily, just like his mother had. Sadly, that love got her sentenced too. Let's just say it didn't end well. A few minutes later, Lily walked into the room. She was surprised to find Isaac gone and said she had brought his medicine. Catherine told her he was exhausted, so he went back to his room to rest. She said he was already asleep and asked if Lily wanted to leave a message. Lily was immediately puzzled as to how a man could fall into a deep sleep right after a kiss. She looked up when the maid decided to tell her some news. The maid smiled slyly and announced that her revenge plan was over. She lied outright, relaying a message from Isaac that Lily would return to the Roland Duchy in 3 days. The girl couldn't believe he had decided to send her away. Catherine smirked, saying it was just a simple end to their agreement. She added that it might even be good for her in the long run. With that, she locked the door, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. She couldn't understand how being separated from him could be a blessing. She kept thinking about all the possibilities until she finally figured out the reason. Lily froze as a strong sense of danger washed over her. Isaac was in danger. She immediately banged on his door, demanding he let her in. The girl pounded on the door with her fists until she saw magical runes shimmering on it. It seemed the cunning maid had made sure she couldn't get through. Lily looked at her hands, a flash of fear in her eyes, and saw they were burned. She broke down, saying she just wanted to share this pain with Isaac. She didn't know Catherine had orchestrated all of this to make her think he was pushing her away. Lily clenched her fists, her face hardening with new resolve. She would not give up. She pictured his face and realized with absolute clarity that she had loved him all along. Meanwhile, Isaac finally woke from his deep sleep. He nearly jumped in fright when he saw he was bound in chains. Catherine smiled sweetly and asked if he was hungry. He ordered her to release him, but she just ignored him. She placed a plate on the table, saying this was all for his own good. She asked if he had been so blinded by his feelings that he'd forgotten the dangers outside. Catherine leaned into his face like a stern mother. She reminded him that he had even used his paladin's power, which would only accelerate the curse. The girl sneered, adding that he had completely forgotten what he was supposed to do. She reminded him that Lily Rowland was his last chance to solve his problem. Isaac couldn't take it anymore and told her shut up. Catherine said that in the worst-case scenario, they would have to perform a human sacrifice. They both knew no one was more suitable for the role than Lily. Her words enraged him, making him try to break free from his prison. Catherine ordered him to give up, saying it was impossible for him to break those chains. She also warned him that if he didn't use his paladin's power, he would be finished. Isaac roared that he would not let Lily sacrifice herself for him. He looked straight into the maid's eyes and saw only contempt. She smirked, saying Lily would be back soon. Catherine added with a sly smile that they would soon see just how much she cared for him. She was counting on the girl to save him at any cost. It was as if she knew Lily would head to the church in the Crescent Moon Kingdom. The girl met with Shay to participate in a vigil. This was the very place where her sister, Bella, had been burned to ashes. Not even Lily herself had expected she would be willing to go this far. She stared at the charred pillar that no one dared to use anymore. Shay asked if she was truly ready to perform the ritual for him. She added that she could offer a chance to speak with the souls bound to this pillar. Shay said one of the souls might know how to break the curse. She warned that they might not answer, and she could end up becoming just like them. A soul herself. Shay looked at her companion and saw not a trace of doubt on her face. She agreed and asked Shay to perform the ritual for her. Shay had the girl sit on her lap and chanted the necessary prayers. With each new word, the blue flames on the pillar burned brighter. Before she knew it, Lily saw Isaac as a child. It was as if she were watching a once thrilling event. From a distance, Isaac was standing and talking to his father, who was holding a girl. He introduced Catherine to his son, saying she would now serve him. The boy looked in surprise at the girl, who was still just a child herself. She looked at him with her clear gray eyes, as if giving an answer. Despite his young mind, it seemed he already understood everything back then. He was dismissive, saying he already had maids, but they explained that her family had all passed away. His father told him to take care of her, but he said the same thing to his father. He just walked away, saying he had too much on his plate to look after her. From then on, he and Catherine grew up together like master and servant. Catherine shyly apologized and tugged on his sleeve. She smiled and asked if she could call him Isaac. He was captivated by her childish smile and couldn't refuse. He never thought that one day this smile would be replaced by betrayal. For the first time, he realized she had used his weakness to turn him into a puppet. Isaac demanded to know what she had told Lily. Catherine smirked, saying that if she wanted to see her beloved, she should go to the church. She turned slyly, adding that she would perform the same ritual as his mother, betting her own soul. She would merge with the world of the dead. She would have to accept that she might not be able to return from that place. Isaac froze, sensing the worst was about to happen. Both furious and exhausted, he even tried to unleash his power. Catherine felt a bright golden flame lock onto her, and her body went rigid. She reminded him that he might be accelerating his own death. He just roared back that he could make her disappear from the map at any moment. Isaac demanded she let him go and ensure Lily's safety. Because he had used that power, the curse began to spread within him. The maid smirked and asked if he was threatening her by using himself as a hostage. She took out a coin, saying she had already given orders to the guards in his name. Catherine had arranged everything, leaving him with no way out. She declared that if anything happened here, the Stewart family would wipe the Rowland family off the map. As soon as he heard this, his magic vanished. He realized Catherine was a master of manipulation. He sighed wearily and asked her why she was doing this. The maid just gave a sly smile and asked if it was really that hard to guess. She stroked his head, saying she just wanted to show him how pathetic love truly is. Catherine moved closer to him, telling him to remember how his mother died. Meanwhile, Lily had already performed the seance and entered the void. Her soul temporarily left her body and entered the wasteland of the Holy Pillar. Countless souls wandered here, including her family, but she had to resist any attempt to interfere with the ritual. She needed to find the Queen of the Night, who had died 300 years ago. She was a descendant of witches and knew how to break the moon's curse. Lily had just set foot in this land when she was attacked by forgotten souls. They wanted her to share a sliver of her life force with them. The girl thought she was done for, but then Isaac grabbed her hand. She couldn't believe her eyes, seeing him in a place like this. He looked at her and asked what she was doing here. Isaac pulled her into a tight embrace, telling her how long he had been looking for her. Lily, surprised, reminded him of what she had heard from Catherine. He told her to forget those words, adding that he had been waiting for her for a long time. The girl asked if he was hiding from her because of the curse or some other reason. He smiled and replied that he wanted to be with her forever. Isaac sensed her trust in him and reached for her lips. The moment she felt his lips touch hers, she found herself lying in bed. She opened her eyes in surprise and saw the man in front of her. He had her pinned to the bed, breathing in the scent of her long hair. Isaac pleaded with her not to refuse him and to remember how much he had missed her. She shyly pushed him away, saying now was not the time. Even so, he still tried to persuade her with his eyes. Every new kiss sent a shiver down her spine. He asked if she would be his when the time was right. Lily repeated his question, as if sensing something was wrong. Isaac gave a sly smile, saying he only wanted her. The next moment, he became grim and demanded in a terrifying way that she belong only to him. At first, Lily didn't realize she was being deceived and just kept looking at him. She was mesmerized, almost agreeing to everything he asked. He pressed her hard, demanding she say she would be his. Before she could answer, his image shattered. Because of the prayer, the mask fell away, and he finally showed her his true face. The girl clutched her chest in disgust and ordered the evil spirit to back away. The evil spirit realized the saintess had set such a trap in her own mind, and she told him he shouldn't have pretended to be Isaac to deceive her. The evil spirit was filled with regret, realizing he was just one step away from possessing her. He wanted to take her soul so she could never return to the human world. The evil spirit sneered that they had transformed into the memories deep within her heart. She froze upon hearing that everything she had seen was a projection of her deepest desires. The girl asked him point blank who he really was. As she began to list possibilities, he sharply ordered her to shut up. He said that if she spoke the name, they would both be done for. She was about to say Oranto, the most powerful witch in legends. It took the entire church and the Leonia kingdom joining forces to defeat her back then. The evil spirit roared at her, telling her to get lost and not to seek out that cursed woman. Lily was shocked to see how terrified he became after she said those words. The moment he changed his form, she knew he was no ordinary evil spirit. She guessed he must have heard of the curse of the moon. The evil spirit told her to give up, saying she could do nothing without Leonia's divine power. Lily simply smiled back and asked for his help. He sneered and asked what she planned to pay with. The girl grew wary when he mentioned her body, mind, and fortune. Before she could react, a huge cage fell from the sky, enclosing her. The cage slammed heavily to the ground, trapping her with no way out. The evil spirit casually placed his hand on the cage, telling her it was too late for regrets. A surge of energy crackled down from the top of the cage. He said that in 1 hour, her soul and body would be separated forever, to become his meal. Lily immediately realized she was trapped in a soul-devouring cage. The evil spirit sneered that she was already on the verge of collapse after casting the banishment spell. He added that she would not be able to see his true form or learn about his past. The girl calmly said that the answer was obvious. She said his name was the deep-sea kraken, hitting the mark. The evil spirit screamed in agony, feeling his entire body and the cage disintegrating. Even the fist he tried to swing at her vanished in a thin air. The collapse created a fierce gust of wind, but Lily stood her ground, unmoved. She looked forward and saw the evil spirit's true form after he was freed from the darkness. Standing before Lily was an exceptionally handsome young man with blue hair. Lily smiled and said that an evil spirit whose name is known cannot cause any harm. She also mentioned that he was Oranto's knight, but she had dumped him, and he died on the battlefield of the West Sea. Afterward, the church cruelly cremated him and destroyed his remains. They even displayed his skull as a trophy. On the throne, Kraken glared at her in annoyance, asking why she was telling him all this. She sneered and asked if he knew what she could do with his remains. It seemed she had successfully scared him, as the remains contained a part of his power. He tried to dissuade her, knowing he would become weaker without his remains. Lily smiled triumphantly and ordered him to help her break the curse. Kraken said his former master's soul was in a dormant state. He added that he could enter her sea of consciousness and steal the witch's grimoire. The girl smiled confidently, saying that place surely had what she needed. Despite being manipulated and blackmailed, Lily sincerely thanked him. Just minutes ago, he had wanted to harm her, yet she still treated him with courtesy. He said the guy she wanted to save was a lucky man. Blushing, he said he would be right back and wouldn't let her become another victim of the Stewart family. Kraken was surprised to find she didn't know the story. He revealed that before her, another woman had performed the ritual here. Despite being abandoned after giving birth to her son, she still prayed for her husband's success. Lily didn't know that the son was now bound in chains. Catherine once again reminded Isaac how his mother had prayed to the evil spirits. Despite her loyalty, they used her like a puppet and then threw her into a dungeon. Catherine sneered that love makes people do foolish things. Isaac just listened to her tirade, without a word. After a short pause, he muttered that it was all a load of nonsense. Catherine leaned in close, contemptuously telling him to say it again. Isaac seized the opportunity and instantly grabbed her hand. He moved quickly, breaking the chains and throwing the maid to the ground. He met her gaze and said that Lily was completely different from his mother. Isaac twisted her arm, saying that he himself was not a carbon copy of his father either. He concluded by saying he wouldn't treat Lily as some kind of panacea. Catherine noted thoughtfully that he had been deliberately feigning weakness. She yelled that everything she did was to save him. Isaac disagreed with her methods and gave her a look of utter disdain. He let her go, saying a servant wouldn't have the guts to imprison her master the way she did. The man pointed out that she had imprisoned him out of a desire to possess him. Driven by intense jealousy of Lily, she had been plotting this for a long time. He added that she mocked love because she was afraid of her own forbidden feelings. Isaac looked at the maid and demanded she admit she loved him. She froze when he added that this forbidden love was driving her mad. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she masked them with laughter. She stood up, saying she had been taking care of him since they were children. Even after that witch's attack, she had stayed by his side, doing everything she could. She broke down, saying it was she who had always been with him, not Lily, but she knew she could never be worthy of being his wife. A bitter smile crossed her face as she realized it was simply impossible. Catherine clung to him, asking if she was destined to be his servant forever. Isaac calmed down and said he had always been grateful for her care. He wiped away her tears, adding that they could never be together. He pulled his hand back and said she knew why. The man gave a meaningful smile and said they were family. Catherine trembled, utterly terrified, when he called her dear sister. She never thought he would find out that secret. She backed away from him as if from a madman. She cried even harder, asking when he had found out. He just sighed wearily and said he had known since they first met. Catherine was too stunned by the truth to speak. Seeing him turn to leave, she demanded to know where he was going. Isaac calmly replied that he was going to the church, hoping the evil spirit would bring Lily back. Catherine immediately told him her soul was beyond saving and he couldn't take such a risk. He just smiled and said he had already accepted the possibility of death. He was ready to pay any price to get her back, even if it meant death. Isaac called himself a monster stained with blood and sin. He turned to Catherine and told her to write a will, if she cared about him. Before he could finish, a familiar figure burst into the room. Isaac couldn't believe how quickly things had progressed. Standing before him was Lily, the person he was willing to give his life for. Her face was filled with confidence, as if she had figured something out. She directly asked what had happened and why he was here. Lily ran to him, saying she had searched the entire damn castle for him. She was also angry at his depressing talk about a will. She had a million more questions, but he cut her off with a hug. Isaac was completely overwhelmed by the fact that she was alive and standing in front of him. He immediately started questioning her, asking if she had been harmed by any evil spirits. The next second, he collapsed to the floor as strange markings began to spread across him. His entire body, even his face, was covered in these ugly symbols. Lily immediately rushed to his side, trying to wake him. Catherine ordered her to let go and not make the situation worse. It seemed this maid had pushed her to her limit in such a short time. Catherine cradled his head in her lap, calling Lily a disobedient brat. She added that her deal was done, and she no longer had any right to be in the castle. The maid said she was considering performing a spirit-summoning ritual for him. She glared at Lily, convinced she had backed out at the last minute. Lily froze when she added that it was all because Lily was too weak. She walked straight up to Catherine and slapped her hard across the face. The maid presumably hadn't expected the delicate Lily to do such a thing. Lily asked if all she could do was blame others when things went wrong. She added that at this rate, Isaac might not survive. Lily ordered her to prepare 20 candles, goat's blood, pearl powder, and salt water. She yelled at her, demanding she move as quickly as possible. As Catherine processed the list of ingredients, she was taken aback. Lily mentioned she had consulted the evil spirit and found a way to break the curse. The maid felt a pang of shame for the nonsense she had said to her earlier. Meanwhile, Lily bit her finger and began to draw a symbol with her own blood. She slowly drew a pentagram on the furry beast's paw. As soon as she finished, he began to transform bit by bit, as could be seen from the receding fur. She announced that this was only the first step in breaking the curse. Catherine immediately shot back, accusing her of desecrating his body. Lily asked if she had a better way to break the curse. She grabbed a knife and held it to the annoying maid's throat. The girl said that if anything went wrong, she would make Catherine pay. She ordered Catherine to help her by fulfilling her duties as a maid. Catherine bit her lip, feeling the blade against her neck. Just a few minutes later, she returned with all the ingredients she needed. Lily realized the materials were far from enough for what she required. She sighed wearily, knowing they didn't have much time left. Catherine called her arrogant and threatened to make her regret it if she messed up. Lily remained silent and dipped her finger in a balsam juice. She slowly applied it to her lips and chanted an incantation. The girl kissed Isaac, making sure the balsam juice and her blood touched his lips. Catherine watched as everything lit up, feeling a pang of jealousy. It stung her that someone else had saved him and not her. Lily thought to herself that all that was left was to wait for him to wake up. Seeing the curse finally broken, Catherine cried tears of joy. At that moment, Isaac opened his eyes and saw the girl. She was beaming, happy that they had actually succeeded. The man wondered if he was really still alive. Even so, there was one thing that still bothered him. He looked back at Lily and asked who was standing behind her. Kraken sneered, recognizing the very familiar face. He asked if she really wanted to save this weak and sickly guy. Lily scolded him for daring to speak so lowly of the crown prince. Knowing he was weak, she carefully helped him up from the floor. After a brief silence, Isaac declared that uninvited guests were not welcome in this castle. It seemed he had noticed Catherine trying to run him through with his own sword. The girl was shocked to realize what she had seen was a complete mirage. Isaac made it clear that he especially did not welcome uninvited guests of the undead variety. He stood up and said he had seen his portrait in a forbidden book. He was known as the deep-sea guardian of some ancient underwater race and the knight of an ancient witch. Isaac quickly realized he was facing a Kraken demon. The evil spirit sneered when Isaac asked why he was clinging to Lily. He accused Isaac of having a poor attitude towards the one who saved his life. It seemed the crown prince found it hard to believe he was saved by a Kraken. Lily interjected that she couldn't have broken the curse without his help. Just before the ritual, he had given her a witch's book left by Oranto. He handed her the book, saying it would now become a part of her consciousness. Kraken told her to chant Oranto's name 3 times whenever she wanted to read it. Lily thanked him and asked what she needed to give in return. It turned out Kraken had asked her to make him her exclusive evil spirit. Seeing Isaac's surprise, Lily explained that she had agreed for the sake of the book. She admitted to letting him reside in a bracelet, which she had snuck out of the church. Kraken chimed in, saying he couldn't be more than 30 feet away from her now. Isaac's frustration seemed to amuse him greatly. Hearing all this, the crown prince wearily pinched the bridge of his nose. After everything, they fell into a deep sleep, waiting for the next day to come. Isaac, having recovered from his weakness, was carefully selecting his attire. He dressed up handsomely, as if he had an important event to attend. A few minutes later, Lily walked into his room with a bright smile. She curtsied, happy that he was finally free from the curse. The girl added that it was a blessing from heaven that he was the crown prince once more. It seemed Isaac had forgotten what such moments felt like. He let out a breath and asked if she really saw him that way. Lily smiled and said that perhaps she should return to her duchy. After all, the estate and servants she left behind were waiting for their heiress, and the curse was broken. With those words, she turned to leave without a goodbye. She thought he would let her go, but Isaac pleaded with her to stay. He called out to her, asking if she had forgotten everything. He reminded her that not long ago, he had publicly declared her his fiancé. Lily immediately retorted in embarrassment that it was all just a game. Isaac said that wasn't true and gently kissed her hand. He sincerely pleaded with her, such a special girl, to stay by his side. The man gazed at her as if finally baring his soul. Lily was stunned by his sudden emotion, an emotion so similar to her own. She threw herself into his arms, an action that spoke louder than words. Isaac realized she wasn't the one who should be leaving this castle. First, he needed to get rid of someone else. Not long after, he paid a visit to his sister's room. He greeted her with complete silence, which unsettled her. Seeing his expression, Catherine sensed her doom. His eyes said it all, filled with contempt. The girl felt ashamed, but couldn't utter a single word. She jumped up, saying her sins were unforgivable. Catherine was willing to accept any punishment just to stay by his side. She was practically begging him, offering any of her skills for his use. She was ready to give her life for him, but he cut her off. He said he wasn't interested in dredging up the past and called for the guards. They threw her luggage at her feet, and then he said he was here to kick her out. Catherine couldn't believe he would make such a harsh decision. She began to argue that without her as his right-hand woman and confidant, he wouldn't be able to cope. Finally, she blurted out that she was practically family and should be forgiven. Isaac said nothing, but he could feel his blood begin to boil. She played the sympathy card, saying his father owed her and her mother. Catherine, in tears, accused him of not cherishing their family bond. Isaac stated that was precisely why it was best for them to be apart. He told her he didn't need a maid who tried to control everything. Growing angrier, Isaac added that she had dared to treat his fiancée that way. He said they could perhaps meet again once she gave up her crazy demands. Isaac ended the conversation there and wished her well. She fell to her knees, asking how he could just throw her away like trash. She tried to appeal to him, but he was as cold as stone. Catherine started to say that it was Lily who ordered him to punish her. Isaac just gave her a look that told her to shut up. He said he had intended to banish her from the kingdom, but Lily had pleaded for her. The man threw a piece of paper with an address at her feet. Shortly before this, he had opened up to Lily about what was troubling him. He thought they needed to maintain a considerable distance. Lily pleaded with him to at least let her stay in the Crescent Moon Kingdom. She showed empathy, understanding that he had some regrets. He had been prepared to be truly heartless, but her words made Isaac change his mind. The girl smiled and said she once had a sister too. Even though they were enemies, after losing her, Lily felt no joy or sense of revenge. Now she only felt an overwhelming loneliness. She stroked the man's head, trying to ease his worries. Lily said she didn't want to make him choose between her and his only sister. Isaac said nothing, but her words did influence his decision. Lily offered to help find her a job at an herb shop. She smiled, giving him hope that Catherine might one day come to her senses. Isaac was still angry with his sister, but seeing Lily's smile warmed his heart. Meanwhile, Catherine was reading the letter from her brother. She felt a mix of bitterness and sadness, but she was grateful that he was looking out for her. A sob tore through her chest as she replayed his words in her mind. All Isaac could do was watch her carriage disappear from the castle courtyard. He said his goodbyes, claiming this was the only way for her to be free. Now, he could finally live peacefully and lovingly with the one he belonged with.